And we should be live.
Hi, I'm Lise Colucci, and I'm one of the life coaches at queenbeing.com. And you know who that is, Angie Atkinson. Hi.
Hey.
Hey, we're here together again, like last week. And we're going to talk about narcissistic fleas and versus healthy coping skills. And
Yes.
then you're queuing any questions that you guys have, like always. So, hey, Angie.
Hey. Happy to
I'm
be here.
I'm trying to set up over here
Okay.
and find so I can see the chat.
Right on.
Oh, there it is.
You got it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm trying to set up. No, I don't want to do that. I know I was talking. I got to find the mute. So I'll let you talk. I'm going to do this.
Okay. All right. So let me just jump in. So basically, what is happening? Let me start over. Fleas. What are you going to do? Narcissistic fleas. Let me define it for you. So a lot of times when we spend a lot of time with a narcissist, we spend a lot of time, we grow up with one, we are in a long-term relationship with one, we pick up little habits, and sometimes those habits make us think we're narcissists. But in reality, they're just learned behaviors that we can unlearn. So, for example, when I first left my mother's house and every boyfriend I had, my first husband, blah, 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 who was also a narcissist. That's another story. Um, I felt like I was supposed to be running every relationship because I
Mm-hmm.
watched my mother run her own relationship very, very specifically. I'll say that. So I found myself being sort of that girl in a bad way in my relationships. And another example might be that, um, well, sometimes I find myself still occasionally, just recently, it's rare because I'm pretty laid back about stuff, but just recently I I said a phrase to my daughter that my mother used to say to me when she was angry at me. And I was frustrated with her because she wasn't hearing something I was trying to express to her. And I said, you better pray to God, blah, 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 whatever I said. And afterwards she was like, you told me that your mother used to say that to you and you shouldn't say that. And I'm like, you're right, and I'm so sorry. And then we talked about it. But it was a flea that I just recently experienced. So that happened. And then Lise, you were telling me about somebody who told you about
Somebody told me just when they're driving that there's a lot of aggression or frustration with other drivers, and they identified that as a flea in themselves.
Yeah, and I know I've experienced that too. I used to
Right.
joke about road rage, but I still sometimes I try not to now, but I have
Right.
noticed occasionally I'll rage a little bit on the road. But my kids
Right.
mostly laugh at me because I'm silly about it now. But yeah, so that is, but it's there are behaviors that we notice in ourselves, we don't like them, and we recognize that we've picked them up from narcissists. And I would say like a large percentage of us go, oh, am I a narcissist too? And that happens. Of course, most of the time when somebody says that to themselves, they're not a narcissist because narcissists, they don't self-reflect that well and they can't possibly think anything is wrong. So with themselves, of course. Yeah, Crystal says, yeah, after 30 years, I found myself morphing into someone like the narcissist and finally caught myself. I decided not to continue because it makes me just like them. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah, and I noticed that it's often for me in times when I feel like I don't have control of the situation. Like I notice if I don't get my way, I'll get silent or do things that are, and it won't last long, but it's there.
Right, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's something that a lot of people go through. Are you in your chat? Did you find the chat now?
I found the chat. I got it.
Okay.
Yes, I
Okay, good.
see it. I think
Good.
it's all live. It's going.
Right on. All right. Bear with me. I'm sending out notifications that I forgot to send out before, but
That's
while
okay.
while we're here,
While
um,
we're here.
you
So
know,
while we're here and while she's doing that, if you have not hit subscribe to this channel, hit subscribe. And
yep.
and she said the thumbs up. Sorry, I used my braced arm. Let's use the not. Oh.
Aw.
Not even gonna say why my thumb hurts. Texting. Oh my God. Right. That's
Too many
too
texts.
many holes in the phone. Yeah. So yeah. And if you want texting notification of this channel going live, text me at 33222. Put the word Lise Live as one word, LISELIVE, and hit send. And I'll text you about 10 minutes prior to.
Yes. Yes, yes.
Yes,
I
yes.
am Right on. So, how are we all doing today? Let's see. Did I hit the button yet? I'm trying to post this. Gosh darn it.
Carpal tunnel syndrome. We hope not. I think it's just my thumb.
I, I actually do have carpal tunnel. In oddly enough, both hands, but it's worse in my right hand, which is weird because I'm left-handed. Isn't
Oh, yeah,
that
this is
weird?
my left hand, so I don't know. We
Is
could
it?
swap and just do things. Yeah, okay. Let's see. What's for T says I had thought about myself in the past and have consciously worked on each flea until I didn't really have those thoughts anymore. But it's work,
Mhm.
no doubt about it. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. It is the self-awareness that
Yeah.
leads us, like changing any habit. You have to be aware you're doing it, and
It's
then
true.
be open and willing to accept a responsibility enough to work on that.
Yes.
Right. Hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's where we differ from the narcissist.
It is. And it's yeah, and I think it's difficult. Wait a minute, I'm trying to see. I shouldn't do too many things at
That's
once.
okay.
It's a problem. I'm trying to see if I have enough messages that I don't have to buy any more messages. We're about to find out to send them out. Oh
That's
yeah,
okay.
we're good.
Andrew's saying during the process of escaping, I found myself doing a lot of things to him that he does to me. And that is more, in my opinion, reactive abuse.
Yes,
Because you're doing
yes,
it directly to the abuser.
I agree with that, and I did that. I did it so hard.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
again, it doesn't make it okay, but
No.
we understand, and
Yeah.
I can't blame you.
Right.
I think a better, obviously a better option would be to gray rock, but we're all
Hmm.
human. Nobody expects you to be superhuman here. You know what I mean? We
Right.
don't.
And actually, you do have to be superhuman in order to withstand and maintain oneself in a narcissistic
Yeah,
abusive relationship, which is not possible because none of us are superhuman.
that's
So,
right. That's
yeah.
right. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Let's see here. Absolutely.
Do you have a plan, Andrea?
Yeah. What's your
Get
plan?
out.
I know. I think Andrea is the one that told me she was in the process of getting out. I think she just told me that this morning.
Yeah,
She
it's
was getting
tricky.
out.
It's
Yeah.
it's be patient with yourself then while you're in this part. It's
It is a process. I mean, and it's
mm-hmm.
not like going through this type of abuse. It almost makes us feel like we're not even capable of getting out. So there's the first hurdle, once you recognize what you're going through and you start to figure it out that this is legit and you understand it, hey Shelly, hey Kaden, oh good, they got the text, good.
Yay.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, this leads us, I think, to becoming that learned helplessness. We get that sense of
Mm-hmm.
learned helplessness. I meant to talk about that on my channel recently. I'll talk about it soon. Um, but that's what happens. And so just the idea of leaving sometimes becomes, it feels insurmountable. So don't beat yourself up for feeling the way you do. So if you need to be angry to get out, I did. If you need to,
Yes.
you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
Take that anger and use it to propel yourself forward for now. Don't try to release it just yet. Use it to move forward if you can muster it up. Sometimes
Right.
you can't even do that. Depends on the situation.
Well, it depends on the person too. I don't think it was anger for me. It was indifference.
Yes.
It was I adopted his cold indifference.
Hmm.
And so in that sense, I was giving him exactly what he gave to me. And as he felt it, he pulled away and discarded
Yeah. Yeah. Because he didn't
because
probably
it
know
was
what.
gray rocking, but it was with complete indifference.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I kind of got there with mine as well, but not really.
I
Not
think
really.
we're, it's the way each person copes. So some
Yeah.
people don't, they wonder why they can't get angry. That's why I said that. Because
That's a valid point.
some
Yeah.
people are like, I can't get angry, and yeah.
I went numb, I think. And
Numb. Yeah.
yeah. But then when it came down to it, and this is a terrible thing I'm about to say, but I went numb I think the only reason I really left was because of my child.
Mm-hmm.
Because I saw something that occurred and I knew I had to leave because he was going to do bad things. And so I
Right.
couldn't continue to be there. And so that was my catalyst. But luckily, I'm I'm learning that that's not the only reason. I learned that that was not the only reason. Yeah, Bonnie says we give too much credence and power to the narcissists. They're actually weaklings, and she is right. They really are. But they seem so powerful to us in the
Oh
moment,
yeah.
screaming and
Don't
yelling.
the power's in the control, and that's from the manipulation. And once we see
Yes,
the manipulation, we can start to see the truth.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yep,
Mm-hmm.
yep.
Why do they
Let's
continue to use the children? Says Tina.
That's a good question. Because they know that the children are attached to your heart directly, most
Mhm.
likely. They know that And when they are, sometimes the child is the only connection we have left.
Mhm.
And so, yes, of course, they're going to use them. They see their children and you as extensions of themselves. They
Right.
don't see you as individuals, nor do they see the children as individuals. They see you and them as just parts of themselves that are
Right.
living outside their body. Now, this is contrary to the old mom quote that talks about, oh, until I had a baby, I didn't know a part of my heart could walk around outside of my body. Contrary to that, this is different. This is like, I don't see you as a whole person. You are not the same as me. You are not equal to me. You are different and lower and less than, and therefore you do what I say and blah blah blah. So that's what I'm probably
Often too, with their children, they can see them as not so as separate and what? How did you word it? You just said
extensions of themselves.
extensions of themselves, but literally ownership of
Yes,
that extension. Like
most
literally
definitely.
ownership. They get to
Yes.
control. They made you. They made them. They get to control them.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's
right.
yeah.
Yeah. And that's unhealthy. I mean, I do joke with my children that I own their bodies until they're 18, but only because I don't want them to get tattoos and piercings until
Right.
they're old enough to decide that.
It's
Um,
a totally different situation. Yeah.
right. And I don't really, they know I'm just joking around when I say it like that. But
Right.
yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Shelley says, hi. And yeah, it's learned helplessness as you have forces working against you, so nothing works or is healthy ever improving, and that's exactly what it is. That's an interesting way that you put it, Shelley, because oh, it was funny, we had two Shelley Taylors in my chat and then a third Shelley in
Oh,
my
how
chat
funny.
earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, that's a valid point though, because it does feel like that. Like, I knew when I was with my ex-husband, I could not get my head above financial water to save my life, and that was because he was directly actively working against me. He would literally go to the bank and steal the money out of the bank account that I was going to use to buy the groceries for the child and the family, or the money I was going to use to pay the rent, and he would just go out and blow it on whatever he was blowing it on. I don't even know, drinking or whatever. And it was horrible because I didn't know how I was then going to pay the rent or feed the child. It got really bad. And so that kind of that's just one example of somebody working against me as I'm trying to create a goal or achieve a goal of being able to pay all the bills and eat at the same time.
Mhm.
Back then. I mean, I'm good now, don't worry. But yeah, yeah. So anyway, yeah.
I'm
Um,
My mother
Chris,
is still 90 and she still thinks she owns her grown kids. It's sick. She's a
mm,
hardened narcissist. Yep.
yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, they don't change.
Nope, they don't.
Just
In
gets
fact, I
worse.
think they get worse.
They
Yeah,
get worse.
when
Yeah.
they, especially if part of that looks weird. I just looked out the window. It looks like the mailman drove into my yard. That was weird. Anyway, I'm sure I misunderstood something there. um, but yeah, that's a legitimate point that you made there. And in fact, like a lot of times you'll have a female or male narcissist who, as they get older, they become like less physically attractive, they become less
Mhm.
charming, and they get meaner and more controlling of the people who they think they have control over, like their children and their grandchildren and their spouse, and
Oh yeah,
and
besides you owe them for everything that they've done for you your entire life.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You know,
Yeah, we
I
owe them all right.
I still have a scar from that C-section.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I was
Uh-huh.
in labor for 27 hours or 68 hours or whatever they say. Yeah, I heard all that.
So Gary's saying, he says, hi, Lisa and Angie. At 14 months with a narcissist, we are completely cut off. Today is 7 weeks since she left for the second time. I was getting better. Then all of a sudden she sends me a text saying, leave me alone. I'm sorry. I giggled when I read it, but I know you're in pain. So I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing because of the ridiculous things they say in order to draw you back in. That's a Hoover.
That's a Hoover. Yep, I was
And,
just
and then
thinking.
he says, my anxiety is now through the roof and I miss her even more. And that is trauma bonding.
Yes.
So
It's like a
yeah.
drug addiction. It's the same part of the brain. It
Yep.
is a Hoover. And probably if you texted her back, she's like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean that for you. And then you'll be like, well, who did you mean it for? And she'll be like, oh, I've been being stalked by this super hot guy and I just don't know what to do. I need you to protect me. I'm just guessing.
Mm-hmm.
Just guessing. But that kind of stuff is very common in situations like that.
Or so and so told me this and so told me that, and I know you're watching me on Facebook and I know you're looking at my
Yeah.
Instagram and I know, triangulating other people in that didn't actually
Mhm.
happen. And yeah.
May I suggest that you block her from texting you directly, and unless
Oh
you're
yeah.
together. And then I doubt that. I feel like that's not the case. I could be wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. Um, yeah. Okay. Um, Crystal says the process of getting out is much worse. Living with a narcissist while divorcing and having to protect yourself from every day from lies, provoking, spying, accusations, etc. Yeah. Yes, girl.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And that's exactly, when you're dealing with that part of it, you can't even think about much else. You're just in protective mode, like put a bubble up, you know, and
Right.
just protect yourself and do what you can, get through it. If you're able to work on yourself and your self-esteem separately from that, like when they go to work or when you leave the house for some reason, great. But if not, just get through it. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? If that's where
Mm-hmm.
you're still at. And then once you've gotten through it, you can go back and you can figure all the rest of that stuff out. But get through it. Get through the hard parts and then you can take a deep breath and cry if you need to, or let the emotions flow through and then work through the emotions and start to really recover. Because right
Mm-hmm.
now, if you're still in it, I'm not saying, I know Crystal is not still in it, I don't think, but right now, if you're still in it, there's only so much healing you can do from the inside, because you're getting re-injured every time they walk in the darn room, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, except for those intermittent reinforcement moments when they make you doubt yourself and think to yourself, is it really that bad? Do I really have to move my whole life because of this?
And those are the worst moments. I
Yeah.
always say that the kindness and the love bombing is the worst form of abuse because
It's that.
it's the glue.
Yes, it's almost what keeps us there.
Mm-hmm.
Because if every second of every day they would just abuse, 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 we'd be like, bye,
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
out.
done. Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
but then they seem to know when you're right on the edge of jumping out, and they go,
Mm-hmm.
how am I going to pull this person back in?
Yep.
Start pulling,
They
and
start pulling. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I say go if you're going, and I know we're not supposed to be talking about this right now, but I feel moved to say this. If you're going to go and go out into the world and do your thing, then do that, and then don't, like, try your best to not let them know that you're making plans and doing the thing. Do you understand what I mean? Like, don't go sign up for an apartment, or if you're the one leaving, or sign up for an apartment.
I'm signing up for the apartment.
Can I sign up for an apartment, please? Go, sorry.
Cute.
Go get yourself a rental, okay, or whatever. Like, sign the papers, make it so you have no choice but to go, and
Mm-hmm.
then you'll go. You'll have to, or
Mm-hmm.
else you'll waste a whole bunch of money and time. But
Right.
you know what I mean. Or if you're heck, I've seen people. I had this one client who was a real estate agent, and she happened to, like, own a building that had apartments in it, and she literally packed up all of her narcissist stuff and took it over. They'd been together like 30 years. So this was not out of the, I didn't feel like it was out of line for her to do this. She packed up all his stuff. She took it over. She set up the whole apartment for him. And when he came home, she goes, here's your key. Here's your new address. Bye. And that's how it went down. And I
Wow,
thought,
that's
go girl.
smooth.
Yes,
Smooth. I like it.
I
Yeah.
like it too.
That's
So
good.
yeah. So that, hey, even if you don't own a building, you could still go do that if you have the kids and
You
you need to
don't
keep
own a
the house,
building.
or just saying.
For all of us who don't own buildings.
Which I don't, well, I mean,
I don't own
besides
buildings.
houses, I don't own buildings. Okay. Yeah.
Um, I like what is it? Musician 3. Oh my God.
Okay.
It took me almost 3 years to accept, in big letters, the true nature of what it really is. As an empath, I was so nearly, it was so nearly impossible for me to wrap my head, heart, and soul around the reality of it all. That to me is the essence of breaking trauma bonds. When you can accept the truth of what's right in front of you. And I'm not
Yes.
saying that you have to like the truth. And you don't have to accept it in the sense of I accept it in my life. You have to see it for what it is. See the person for who they are, and the toxic behavior for what it is.
Right.
And when you get there, that's when the trauma bonds start to you start to have the cognitive dissonance less on the side of, oh, it's not so bad, and more on the side of, no, this is reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. What's for Tea says, and this is a little bit going back to our original discussion, but she said, uh, some of it is believing the narcissist's projection of bad traits on ourselves are true until
Mm-hmm.
we realize it's them, not us. And that is such a good point that you made,
Mm-hmm.
because this is the thing, right? I spent 35 years with the parental thing happening. I was literally controlled for 35 years on different
Right.
levels by this
Mm-hmm.
person. And then one day I was like, dang this is not normal, you know. And then I found what we're sitting here talking about. I found first narcissistic personality disorder, and then recognized narcissistic abuse, and then started to talk about it, and started to write about it, then talk about it years later. And yeah, and now there's everybody talking about it. So but it's really, that is exactly the thing. If you're growing up with a person who's whether they're a narcissist or they're just toxic, whatever, we can't, let's say, let's not label anybody. Let's just call them people who are mean to us.
Mhm.
Okay, let's call them people who don't have empathy for us. Whatever you want to call it. Growing up with a parent or a caregiver who is actively projecting negative qualities onto you, saying
Yes,
you're lazy, you're stupid, you're this, you're that, you're not attractive, you're not good enough, you're never going to be anything. Well, what do you believe about yourself? You
of
believe you're
course.
stupid, you're not attractive, blah, 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 blah. So this, and then you go into a relationship, which very often happens with another toxic person. And what does that person do? They go, you're lazy, you're stupid, you're unattractive. And then that reinforces that stuff the other person told us. So of course,
And
you
it
know,
feels normal to you. And it feels
feels
normal and acceptable because that's what you're used to.
right. And so instead of pointing out the fact that they are emotionally abusing us, or that they are gaslighting us, or that they are blatantly lying to us about stuff, we go, well, we deserve that because
Hmm.
that's what, you know, people like us get because we're lazy and stupid and unattractive and
Exactly.
whatever.
Yeah.
And mostly the opposite is true. I have, I'm sorry, I'm gonna say this really quick. I have done like a lot of looking at you guys. And I've looked at your, you know, your profiles and your, when you're in the groups on Facebook, I see your pictures, and what I see is a whole bunch of really intelligent, attractive people
Hmm.
who just don't see themselves for the amazing people that they are. And I'm not just saying that to like blow sunshine up your butts. I'm legit. I've, you know, I've never
No,
seen,
it's true. It's true. I see the same thing.
right.
Like
I've seen,
I
right.
can't even with people, like
Yeah.
how amazing they are,
Yeah.
and they
Oh,
can't see it.
I want you to know I'm not touching my nose because I'm lying. I'm touching my nose because it's very itchy.
I'm lying.
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about, but that's really,
Pushing it in.
it's been itchy all morning. You can go back and watch my other video. You'll see what I'm talking about. But
Well,
anyway,
sometimes also sometimes that the stories that they're telling you, the negative things
yeah.
they're done so covertly
Hmm.
that you can't see them even until you're my age at almost 50. That's what was going on.
Nobody would ever know that
I
about you.
understand. I understand why you feel lonely. I'm here for you. I'm the only one here for you.
I heard that same crap. And
Uh-huh.
it's, you know, because, you know, it must be really hard to be so unattractive and lazy and stupid, but I'll be here for you. You
Yeah.
know, like I'm exaggerating, of course, but sometimes
The
it's
world
actually,
might think that you're nothing, but I think you're
that's it.
wonderful.
Right. Right.
That
And that's only
yeah,
when you're being, you know, love bombed in the
love
moment
bombed,
because, you
right.
know,
Yeah.
and you know that the cycle will go on and on and on. In some cases, the cycle goes around once, but most of the time in a toxic relationship, it is
Oh,
ongoing forever.
it's
So you,
ongoing. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So the discard might be the silent treatment, or they might disappear for 3 days or a week or a month or whatever. And then they come right back like nothing's wrong and you're supposed to get over it. And I've seen really crazy stuff happen in some of these
Oh
relationships.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had I had a Hoover 20 years later.
20 years later. Jeez. I actually had one that was similar to that. It was somebody
20
from
years
college.
later, will you forgive me? I've always loved you.
Yeah.
What? Wait, what? Who are you?
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yep.
I know, girl. Okay. Let's
Mhm.
see. Oh, I went way too far back.
Okay.
Where was I? You
I'm
got a
just
question?
following the current here
Okay, good.
because I get
Um,
lost in the back.
yeah, yeah. Let's see. Um, yeah, Jack Lemon adds, I have no problem, not he, but narcissists have no problem using innocent children as manipulation tools for their supply, which is totally true. Yeah, totally true. Phoenix says, I would love learned helplessness recovery guidance. Right on. Yeah, the term does feel shameful, right? I will be talking about that on my channel next week, and I'm sure Lise would also be happy to cover that at some point. Maybe we can do like a two for that day or something.
A twofer, yeah.
Yeah, like we
Learned
started over there, and
helplessness.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, it's a thought.
Excellent.
Um, yeah.
I'll write
Do
it
you?
down because I'll forget.
Yeah, I see that you don't have any mods in your chat. Do you have mods here?
You know what? James Brodviber,
Okay.
but he's not here.
I'm
So
gonna tell you a couple that are in your chat right now who are safe people. We've got Crystal Mountain, Jen Archer,
I
Bonnie.
can't do anything to add anybody right now because
No, I'm not on the account. I'm only on
you're
the
not on
account
the
through Zoom.
account.
So you can go do. You're still logged in. You can still do it. I'm on Zoom
How do I do that? I go up to the.
so if you go by their name and you use the drop down box.
So who should I add? Who would like to mod right now? Raise your hand.
Jen Archer's a good one. Bonnie's a good one. I know Crystal's been in my chat quite a lot. She's safe. Um,
She's safe. The rest of you,
yeah.
I don't know.
No, I'm just telling you people that I know off the top of my
I'm
head that are good.
teasing.
You know what I mean?
Uh,
I'm sure everybody's safe, but I'm just saying these are people who I personally
these are people you know. Okay.
and trust. Yeah.
Can I be a mod? Says Karina. Karina's with me all the time.
If you know Karina and you trust Karina, put her in there.
Okay.
Because I don't know if I've seen Karina as often, but yeah, absolutely, she can be a mod.
Okay. Justina will.
Oh, I know Karina. Hey, girl. I just saw her last name. I know her.
Okay, it's taking me forever to figure this
What's
out.
for tea?
Okay, I'm doing it. Woohoo! I did it. Okay.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Throw some wrenches out there, girl, because that will help you in the future. I mean, right now we have all awesome people in the chat, but every now and then you'll get somebody that'll just
every now and then, not remove, add moderator. Oh, almost removed you, Bonnie, because my brain is not working.
No removing Bonnie.
Okay. Never, Bonnie.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, Shelly. Shelly says, while you're doing that, I'm just going to answer this question really quick, and you're welcome to jump in if you feel up to it. Shelly says it's all about the money now. No money to leave, and yet holds out the carrot of the money coming in.
Oh,
Shelly,
it's so hard. Yeah.
It is very hard. I know it's hard, but I'm going to tell you something. I did a video with a lady who scraped her way out, and she had some really, really good tips. Let me see if I can find that for you. Lise, do you know what we're talking about here with the money thing?
Do I know what having no money is like and having to get out?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Yes.
You know, I when I left my husband, he wouldn't give us any money for a while, and he did eventually, and he's I'm not gonna anyway. And so yes, leaving with no money. I had to lean on people for help. And fortunately I had it, so I can't speak to having no help because I had it, so I was lucky. Right. But there were, all the normal resources that you can find in the community, like, getting energy assistance, going and getting, emergency assistance from the, besides those things, it's a tricky one.
Yeah, it really is.
It really is. And it really depends on where you are, what you have that you can go out and do in life, what your situation is with how many kids you have and what the ages of your kids. And
yeah. You know what? I'm just going to tell you this. I did find the video, but instead of pinning it here, I'm going to tell you this. After this stream today, go over to queenbeing.com/plan, PLAN, download those free resources and look at some of those videos because they have tons of stuff. You wouldn't even have thought of some of this stuff. So go check that out, and I'll just leave it at that because I don't want to be pasting URLs in the chat. I don't even know if I can because I'm logged in as myself instead of this account. So I don't know if it'll.
Christine thinks she's having trouble hearing part of the conversation.
Oh.
Which part are you not hearing? Or which part are you not hearing is probably me. And then she's like, I don't know what she's saying.
Christine, let us know who you're having trouble hearing. It could be me because I'm on this headphone. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
I hear you fine too. Okay.
Okay. Maybe it's her connection. Yeah. I don't know. Somebody had a question here. G Win, how do you protect the children? No one talks about the kids.
Oh, you know what? Here's the thing. On the plus side, if you are in a situation where you have a narcissistic co-parent, I've done tons of videos on this, but if you are in a situation with a narcissistic co-parent, one of the things that you have to do is talk to those children at age appropriate levels. And what I mean is, if you're in the house with a narcissist, you may not want to say the word narcissist to your child, but you may want to make it clear, this is how you cope with this person. These are some ideas. This is, whatever. But when you get out of the house, and you still don't want to use the word narcissist because you don't want to go, you don't want your kid going over to visit and being like, you're a narcissist, mom, or whatever. But you might want to explain to them on an age appropriate level. So if you have a 16-year-old, you could tell them almost anything except I would keep this sex stuff out of it, But if you're dealing with like a 4-year-old, that's going to be a whole other thing. So one of the things, when I left my ex-husband stopped seeing my child. He was almost 4, and he said to me, he was going to preschool, and he said to me, Mom, because by this time he was 16 months old, he forgot this dude. He doesn't even remember he has a dad at this point. So he says to me, Mom, why don't I have a dad? Why don't all the other kids have a dad and I don't have a dad? And I was so heartbroken. And so I went to a therapist because I didn't know what the heck to say to him. I said, well, you do have a dad, but he's not just not here. And I left it at that. And then when I went to the therapist, I said, please help me. I don't know what to say to this child. And the therapist said, you have to tell this child exactly the truth with age appropriate terms. So he said,
Mhm.
you tell him, number one, you have a dad and we were once in love and we made you blah, 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 whatever. And then your dad had some problems and he needed to go away, and your dad's allowed to see you. He has papers that says he could see you, but he chooses not to show up here to see you, and that's not your fault. But I'm always going to be here for you. And that's
Mhm.
basically, a really nutshell version of the conversation. And the doctor said to me that the reason that he wanted me to go that route, or the therapist who was a doctor, uh, anyway, he, a PhD or whatever they are, uh, he said to me, the reason you want to go that route is because number one, you don't want that child to resent you because you took them from your parent, the other parent, or whatever. And number two, they deserve to know as much of the truth as they can handle at that age. And so that's one thing. But always validating their feelings, even while you're still in the house. Make sure that if they complain to you about that parent, which they will if you open yourself up to let them, and I know that sounds difficult, and you got to support them when they come to you and they say, mom or dad's really mean to me, or mom or dad did this or that, you say, you know what, honey, your feelings are totally, you're right. They did, that was unfair, or that was this. And then you just try to talk them down and keep them from being unhappy. And then you work your butt off to get the heck out of there because you don't want to see that child thinking that what you're in is okay.
Mhm.
You want to show them you don't have to put up with this. You could
Right.
leave, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I think it's important always to understand, even for us, we don't need a label.
That's right.
What we need to do is look at the behaviors and the
Mhm.
actions and the way we're treated
Yeah.
and be able to name those.
Yeah.
If we
And
can name
remember,
those and understand them, then we can teach children to not take gaslighting as something
that's
that's
right.
normal.
Right.
And
That's right.
yeah, and
And,
understand what projection is. We don't tell them that's projection. They're too little, but
yeah.
that
And
sounds like that was daddy's feelings. Might be.
yeah.
Or
And
mommy's feelings,
or
whatever.
whatever. And
Yeah.
remember to validate them. That's the
Yes.
biggest, I think, the thing, like looking back as a child that was raised in this situation, the worst painful, the most painful, difficult thing was never ever getting parental approval and never ever ever being validated in my feelings. And,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know, so that's something I think is, I think validation is the key.
Right,
To,
and working on yourself is
of
also important as
course.
a survivor for
Yeah,
you, but also for your children as they see you getting stronger and
of
living a
course.
life that is independent of the narcissist.
Yeah. And don't feel like you need to hide every tear. And what I mean
No,
is,
no.
don't like necessarily break down and act crazy in front of them. But if you have a little tear or a little crying to do and they happen to be around, don't hide it, because they'll say, why are you crying? And you'll say, well, I feel sad because
So sad.
XYZ, because
Yes.
those are true emotions and children need to know. And I'll
Mhm.
really quickly tell you why I'm saying this. My um, husband, his mother, she is now passed away, but she was amazing. But one of the things that I think she did wrong, and this is not my first husband, this is my current husband. One of the things I think she did wrong was, and I love her and she's perfect except for this one thing. She, their father died when he was, my husband was 12. His sister and him were 12 and 8, I guess. No, he's 7. She's 7 years younger. She was 4. Okay. Or 5. Anyway, whatever. I think she was 4 and he was 12. Or he was about to turn 12. And their father died, this is horrible, on the way home from the funeral for her mother. Okay, he
Oh,
had a heart attack in the
yeah.
car. So obviously this woman was just devastated. And now she had these 2 kids to raise on her own, and they were both adopted, so she was 38 when she got my husband, and so here we are. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
she was not necessarily as young as she might have otherwise been. Anyway, my point is, but she, that didn't bother her. But what she did, she wanted those kids so bad that she did everything to isolate and protect them from everyone and everything. And when she had to cry about this, which of course she had to cry. I mean, her mother and her husband in the same breath, basically.
Right, right, right.
And so she would go in the bathtub and cry because she didn't want the kids to see her crying.
Uh-huh.
And so then they were like, well, why isn't mom crying? I guess we're not supposed to cry too. You know what I mean? And so then they doubted, number one, her love for their father, and number two, that they were even supposed to be sad that their father was gone, because she
Right.
was just trying to make them happy. But so I learned a really powerful lesson from her story, even though I don't know that she fully understood the lesson she was teaching me when she told me this story.
It's yeah. I actually your story. I had a client tell me almost they did the same thing. They would hide in the bathtub,
Yeah.
and I said, what if you didn't?
Right.
What if you
What if you
didn't?
didn't?
And that it's okay.
It
I
is
mean,
okay.
obviously not every single day you're gonna be,
Of
but
course.
it happens. We
Yeah.
cry,
That's right.
And I can remember doing that deliberately. Like I would hide in my room after discard.
Yeah.
And I can remember deliberately saying, no, I'm going to go up and make breakfast. And if the tears flow, then they do.
And
And
thankfully that you did it, because you
then,
probably
and they
saved
did.
something.
And
Yeah.
my youngest empath, he's more of an empath than I am. So he's, yeah. And, oh no, what can I do? And I said, you know what, when, and this is important to teach young empaths too. I said, you know what, when someone's sad, sometimes all they need is a hug, and you don't have to give it.
That's right.
And
Right.
it's okay. It's okay that I'm crying. I said, sometimes we just need to feel sad.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
I'm like, I just want to be around you guys. It's all good.
Right. Look, when the 2001 thing, 9/11 2001 happened, I was at work. I came home anyway, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, for the next 3 weeks, I watched nothing but news. And every time any patriotic song came on the TV, I was in tears. That situation, like, totally, I was a single mom at the time, totally threw me for a loop. It totally changed my whole understanding of my safety as an American, and it really messed my head up. Okay. And for a long time. And anyway, for that 3 weeks, every time a patriotic song would come on, I would just be, oh, I'd just be crying. Well, about the third week, one day I was sitting there and some commercial came on with a song that was not a patriotic song, but it was a song. And my child, who was 3, almost 4 at the time, or he was 4, he just turned 4. He came up to me and he said, "Are you gonna cry now, Mom?" And I was like, "Oh, shoot." So then I knew I better stop crying. And that was the minute that I was like, "Okay, I'm so sorry." Right. So I cut myself off at that point. But yeah,
Right.
that was a wake up call from that kid. But yeah, so there are limits to the
There are
crying.
limits. Yeah.
But it was okay for me to cry when I did. And then I explained to him why, because I don't know if he fully understood why I had been crying.
Right.
And in hindsight, he was my first child. I wasn't perfect, but I did explain to him at that point what was happening and why, and then I stopped crying. But yeah, anyway, limits, people,
Limits.
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 Yes. I am getting close to running out of time right now. I'm getting ready
Okay.
to take a call. So I'm going to leave y'all in
Oh,
Lisa's capable hands. Lisa, I'm just going to set you as the host as I go.
okay.
And
And
I will
while
see.
she's doing that, if anyone has asked a question or needs some help or anything right now, go ahead and restate it, please.
Yep.
Ask again, because me going back in chat is not a good idea.
Yeah, I understand. Trust me. Trust me.
Yeah, it takes a certain finesse, and it's still only 9:30 here.
Indeed. Indeed. And I will see you guys next week here on this channel with Lisa.
Thank
One
you,
day we'll
Angie.
text you. Yep. See you soon. All right. Have a good one.
Okay, take care. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye. I'm trying to get out. I don't know what's happening. Here we go. I got it.
Really this time.
I'm really leaving. Okay, bye.
Bye. Wow. And then I went full screen. Hello. Okay, let's get on to you guys. Is there anything you guys want to talk about? I'm a little it's always off my game. I need to do this a little more smoothly. So I have the next thing. What are we talking about in here? Let's go back to chat. What? It got big. I know. It got huge. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Anyone in here with anything they want to talk about? There's Angie. Let's send her hearts. Okay. Let's get going. All right. All right. All right. Now what? Now it's just me. Now what? Now back to normal. Maybe touch on, Bonnie will ask me something and touch on, yay, Bonnie. Bonnie, let's talk. What would you like to talk about, you guys? Okay, I'm going to go back into anyone new here. If you have not hit subscribe, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up. Angie comes on lately once a week with me. Otherwise, I come on 3 to 4 times a week. Financial abuse, Lise. Ooh, what about it? That is such a tricky one, because that is not my personal strength. Okay, that is something I have struggled with as well. So I know the struggles, I know the pain of it. I think it's being patient and working through the process and moving forward. It's sometimes slower than we want it to be. It's huge. And okay, parental alienation, religious abuse, all overlapping with narcissism. I could talk about that all day. What, financial abuse or all of it? Talk about it all day, be exhausted. Exhausted. I also like to leave it with something positive. So if there's anything anyone needs help with healing, okay, how about healthy coping skills? We can go back to the original topic. Does anyone have, back to the original topic, which was narcissistic fleas, does anyone have a flea or any example of fleas where they don't quite know what the healthy equivalent would be and how to translate that into, like, how to shift from the flea-like behavior into something healthy? Making a life plan might be a good topic. Yes, and I will need to think on. See, these are all things I need to think on, and like, I can't off the top of my head talk about because it's really dealing with people's lives, right? Like how to, instead of maybe try this. Okay. Financial abuse, spiritual, emotional, and physical abuse, went through them all. Yes. Many of us have enjoyed Angie's affirmations and DBT skill cards, something maybe in the future stream or similar thoughts. Excellent. Thank you. Points on what to include in the divorce decree. Again, when it comes to legal and things, I need to research it because I'm not going to do that from the hip. Okay. Obviously, I don't want to give wrong information on something like that, or anything really, but that in particular. I sometimes go into negative talk. I was never negative talker. So you go into negative talk and you feel like that's a flea. And do you catch it? Sometimes, like, it'll be the middle of the day and I'll catch it and be like, whoa, been super negative today about myself and everything else. And so that's when I can start catching it in the moment because I caught it after the fact. And how do you give yourself positive self-talk? I catch it. It was yesterday. Yesterday was a hard one. It was Monday and Tuesday. And then yesterday was like, it, all the negative self-talk, all the self-doubt, all the, so, and I talked about this yesterday, but I'll review it today, which was, let me find it because I made notes on it. I went for a walk. I listened to music that was, first I started with kind of sad music that matched my mood. And then I bumped it up to happier and happier and happier music and inspiring music as I walked. So I would just flip through and find things that, like, oh, that feels better. And I'd let the music kind of lead my mood out of my darkness. And then I started to think. And I started to think about things that I enjoy, things that I am good at, things that are inspirational, positive things people have told me, positive things I've thought about myself, positive things I thought about other people. And I led myself through it, you see, but I used movement and music to kind of help get me there. And I think that seeking enjoyment and seeking joy, we forget to do that because we think as survivors that we have to hold on by the skin of your teeth and your claws to life. And we forget to enjoy things. And if you start enjoying things, the positivity, you're open to positivity. It's not that you have to become positive, you have to become open to positivity. Because positivity is all around you, just like negativity is all around you. And it's what you're open to. If we're completely open only to the negative, we're going to just like flow toward the negative all day, all time, right? Okay, so let's see. Somebody else had a good question here. Why do ex-narcs still want to be friends, says Joy? Because once you are narcissistic supply, you are always supply. So to them, they own you. To them, it's not a relationship where you relate to one another. It's a transactional experience where you are giving them supply and they are feeding you back tidbits and crumbs of affection or attention. They want to keep tabs on you because they own and control. They want to have the door open. So if they need more supply, they can. So maybe they're like mine. He says, you don't want to be friends? I said, were we ever friends? I mean, truly, were we ever friends? Friends, like my friends or my buddies, my pals, you know, that's friendship. There's friendship. Did we ever have friendship? Yes, of course we did. And I thought, no, we actually didn't. We had me giving to you the whole time. That's not friendship, right? And so then I said, well, what is it that you want? And he said, well, you know, like, would you watch the dog for me when I went on trips? You know, I could pay you, like I'd pay a friend or something, don't you, just so we can like support each other, you know, we can talk about things. And like, what will we talk about? Really? We don't talk, so it's about them. What he really wanted was the door open in case it didn't work out with whatever the next new supply was. So maybe years down the line, he could hook up. So maybe he'd have a way in, right? So you keep the chink in the door with that friend, that quote friendship, which isn't actually friendship. All right. What are we saying? All right. How to flip the script with your own negative self-talk. I flip it very gently. I am, my personality type sees the big picture, and I can see everyone, like when I meet someone, I see their potential, right? That's what I see. It's part of the way my empathy works. I see the potential and the beauty, but I also see where they're standing in their own way. That's why with coaching, I can support someone at the same time as holding, I know where they're blocked, or I think they're blocked, right? I feel it, but letting them find it. Okay. So letting them find it so they can open it up and change the perspective on it. So with myself, I kind of do the same thing. It's harder to step back and see where I'm blocking myself. It's harder to step back and see where I'm blocking. So I have to go slower, and I'm not going to go from, well, that was stupid. Why do you always do the stupidest thing, girl? Which is where my head goes. I can't go to everything you do is okay. It's wonderful and blah, blah, and just something amazing. I have to kind of go in the middle and say, well, that was interesting and that was a mistake, and that's okay. People make mistakes and then move on and like neutralize it. So basically I neutralize it until I can bump it up to a more positive self-talk. That's me. Also telling yourself, if it's over and over and over and over that you're repeating the negative thought, the negative belief, telling yourself, no, stop. I choose my thoughts. We do choose our thoughts, okay? We are being led by our emotion when we're not choosing our thoughts. If we step back into logic a little bit, we can choose our thoughts. We can choose to form an actual opinion versus follow the negative pattern that our emotions are telling us to feel. We can flip that, and then our emotions will follow. So instead of letting the emotions lead, I let a more logical side lead, which is everybody makes a mistake, or whatever the thing is. This is human. Logically, it doesn't make sense that you would be stupid because of that. What it means is you made a mistake. Who cares? Move on. Right. And then I kind of settle down. Okay. So I don't know. That's what I do. I'm new to live chat, subscribed 4 months ago, been no contact 3.5 months, still some struggle, emotional, verbal, spiritual abuse. It takes some time, and keep watching and keep reaching out. It does help. Catch the fleas. I think it over and self-correct. It helps. Yes. Let's see, where are we? We have our own blind spots. We need to reevaluate without beating ourselves up about it. Exactly. It's the judgment of self that's in our way of healing and moving on. It's being open to self that lets you take accountability for the action that you kind of need to change, or for the fact that you're awesome, right? We don't even want to take accountability for our greatness. We don't want to hold it and be like, yeah, that's me, let me shine. We dim our light all the time through this stuff. So it's not that we have to be bragging and boastful and like, oh, I'm so amazing, but why not? Okay. Logical thinking is truly not my strong suit. I'm working on that. And it's not even that we have to be logical thinkers. It's applying some logic to the situation. Or in other words, just using your mind instead of your emotions, telling your emotions, okay, I hear you, I feel you. You feel that. All right, settle down a second. Let's look at this. It's basically taking a step back and looking at the situation. It's gaining, okay, it's from here, hi guys, to like being, woo, there's all this room. I have perspective and you have room to breathe. Okay. So I tend to ask myself if I'm behaving the way I want, or am I behaving like a narcissist? Ooh, I ask myself, and on that vein, am I treating myself the way I want to be treated? Or am I treating myself the way abusers have treated me? Am I abusing myself? Am I in my own way here? That's, and if the answer is remotely yes, then I got to step back and take a breath, go take a walk, listen to music, get out of my own head a second, right? He keeps friend requesting me, says Joy. When I didn't reply, his wife requests me. Oh my gosh. And this is the woman he left me for. Wow. Can you block them? I would block them everywhere. They don't, yeah. Block. I said a good point, dimming our light, and it makes us ill when we do so. Doesn't it? Right. Okay. Hi, Jack. I think Lisa's advising us to step back helps. It ties well into the DBT skills I've learned. I have to recognize that my emotional mind is speaking and apply skills. Exactly. And our emotions are important, and they're just screaming all the time at us, right? And especially empathic people, we're just full of our own emotional response to things. It's how we get in touch with the gut feelings, but they can get dysregulated when they take over in a negative way. Sometimes we need to hear those things. Sometimes what we're saying is something else. Another thing I do is I ask why I'm feeling that, or I dig deeper. What's underneath this? Especially if it's a trigger, or what's underneath this trigger, until I can find the source of that belief. I follow a trail. And when I follow the trail, it's sometimes not what I thought it was. And then I have more perspective again. So, okay. Okay, anything else you guys have today, or where are we? I don't even know how long we've been on here, because I think a while. All right. You can, good. Block, Joy. Step back. The emotions are a signal to look further into something that is bothering us, like a warning system. Often, yes. Or they're just repeating the same belief over and over when we have these negative thought patterns, right? They're repeating it over and over. Out of habit. Do you really want a habit like that? Or do you want a habit that says everything's fine? Like today is a good day. I can have a good day. I have a guy in my neighborhood that walks around, and he is one of the more positive people. You'd never know it looking at him. He's kind of quiet and meek, and and anyway, he walks around my neighborhood. I see him in the grocery store, whatever. He's a really great guy. He's really great. And the beautiful thing is, okay, he's been single forever. And a couple of years ago, all of a sudden I see him with this woman, and she's like a female him. And I said, where'd you guys find each other? And they found each other on some volunteer thing they were doing together. And anyway, I thought, they're so amazing. They both walk around, and you see them in the grocery store, and he'll just spot me, and he'll say, you make today good, okay? I'm like, I'm doing it. He's like, no, make it good. I said, I get you. I know, man. I feel you, right? But it's that. It's make the choice. Choose the path that leads you where you want to go, instead of the one that's spiraling you down into your own dark places, right? Our life on the outside can be difficult. Our life on the inside doesn't have to reflect the difficulties all the time. We don't have to cling to being a survivor. We can learn to thrive from the inside out. Okay. Sometimes the outside, the world, changes and shifts because our internal state changes and shifts. We feel more energy. We feel more positive. We go out and we try new things, and our life changes. Nothing changes. Like I said yesterday, nothing changes without change. If you don't start making change, like actually creating change, nothing's going to change, most likely. I mean, obviously it will. It'll change slowly, and deterioration happens and things like that. But in order to fully make a positive change, you have to, and it sometimes can take teeny tiny itty bitty little changes and little nudges, and your life can become different. I'm not saying go be positive and everything will be wonderful on the outside. bad things happen to good people. It just does, right? But what we're experiencing in every moment of our life, do you want to live a life where you're just feeling terrible all the time because everything is awful all around you? Or do you want to learn to cultivate a more positive inner space so that you can feel better when you're not in the middle of crisis, right? And hopefully I'm not talking about when you're with a narcissist. That's very difficult to do when you're living in a toxic situation. I'm talking about when you're out of it and you're trying to heal and recover. All right. But you can still start while you're in it by not hating yourself. Simple as that. Okay. Let's see. What else, you guys? Anything else you want to talk about before I head out? Right. We don't have to be Pollyannas or Debbie Downers. Have to find the true balance. Beautiful. Bonnie's my best summer upper. It's true, right? We don't. Yeah. Okay. Anything else you guys want to talk about today? Otherwise, I'm gonna head out and go do this day. I'll make it a good day. All right. It's helped me to realize. Okay. Okay. I think we're done. I think we're gonna head out. All right. What is today? Today's Friday. Oh my gosh, it's Friday. Have a good weekend, you guys. What are you doing? Anything great? Hopefully. I'm painting a kitchen. Okay. I don't want to. All right. But I'll be positive. No, I won't. I'll be grumpy about it, but I'll get it done. How's that? All right. You guys have a good day. I will be back next week with more of these. Anything, as always, if you have any topics that you would like covered or any questions for yourself, add them to the main comments, not into the chat here now because it's getting late, but into the main comments of any video, and I write them down. I try to get to them as I can. If you have not done so, hit subscribe, hit the thumbs up. If you would like texting notification of my going live, text me at 33222 and put the word Lise Live, Liselive, one word. Hit send, and I will text you about 10 minutes prior to being live. Hopefully we'll have Angie back here next week as well. That's always fun. Appreciated. And that's it. Okay. You guys have a good weekend and take care. Bye-bye. Okay, but I got to figure out how to end this. It's different today. Here we go. Bye.